Friends, day 8 of our self-isolation. We're not totally in lockdown yet, and this is just a joke. I just got back from the grocery store, so I had to make sure I didn't breathe on anyone. So I'm gonna dig in here, see where I left off. I think yesterday we talked about the bowling and all the things that their apartment was made up of. Today, as I look through the text, we're going to learn a little bit about American Samoa. Did you know that there's two? There's American Samoa on a smaller chain of islands, and then there's the big island of Samoa, which is doing just fine. So again, I'm going to start with the last sentence from the last paragraph where we talked about we have 2 bowling leagues, 65 players in all, and have 2 pretty good alleys. That keeps the competitive spirit alive and is also something to look forward to each week. Other forms are social get-togethers and plain old chin fests. Indiana is well represented in Samoa, and so is Purdue. The Ulrichs, now putting in their 2nd year here, are both graduates of Purdue. They live very close by. The Trees live next door. Phil spent a short time at Purdue, and both graduates of Ball State Teachers College. They came here after teaching a year on Guam, after we found out they were from Greenfield, Indiana, 20 miles from Indianapolis, Phil's hometown. We wrote to the folks, and the 2 families have since visited. A small world indeed. The Hertz, who live at the Island Government Experimental Farm, are from Florida. The Thomases hail from Oregon. The Lowe's have joined us from the Great Plains state of South Dakota. We have 4 bachelors with us: Peter Amdahl from Washington, Rush Losell from Michigan, Wally Bolding from Virginia, and Harry Powell, also of Florida. Of all these mentioned, the oldest is 28 and the youngest is 21. This includes us, so you can see we have more than one thing in common. The 6 remaining Pelagi teachers, the Traces, he is Director and Superintendent of Education, came from Ohio. Mrs. Nelson, her husband works for Island Government, come from Illinois. The Hugh Swans from Hawaii, and the Peter Eades from New York. They're the older group, but not over 45, so it might be said that the education system, where Pelagis are concerned, contains some of that old pioneer and adventurous spirit which made our homeland so wonderful, backed up with a fair amount of youth. As a sidelight, even the Navy has seen fit to put a couple of Indiana's sons in Samoa. The Bob Hills of Goshen and the Tommy Thompsons from the southern part round out the roster. So if those names are familiar to you, maybe we need to look at connecting, huh? And now about Samoa. The part of the letter which has stumped and stopped us many times before because of our changing attitude toward it and its people. Western Samoa, about 80 miles due west of here, may as well be in the Atlantic Ocean because the only comparison between the two is a basic race of people, Samoans. It is there the similarity stops, for they have 17 times as much land area, a far greater percentage of flat land, and only 4 times the number of people, besides being under the British rule. We therefore shall combine our writings to American Samoa, the island of Tutila mostly, affectionately called the Rock or the Pearl of the Pacific. In 1872, the harbor of Pago Pago was receded to the USA as a naval coaling station, and in 1878, we were further granted the right of freedom of trade and extraterritorial jurisdiction. In 1900, by executive order, the large island of Tutila was taken over. In 1904, the chiefs of the Moana group also ceded their small islands, after they felt sure it didn't mean the losing of their lands, and ratifying and confirming the cession, which was made voluntarily by the high chiefs long before. The government of American Samoa is in practice by indirect rule, a type of government which has been successful with native peoples elsewhere. The administration body uses in part the native political structure to carry out the routine of government. It takes natives of high title and gives them governmental responsibility and salary. It recognizes village, county, and district gatherings for discussion. The governor has the last word. American Samoa is divided into 3 districts and further into 14 counties, with all leaders appointed by the governor. Village chiefs are elected annually by village councils composed of family heads, but the chiefs selected must be approved by the governor. Even so, the government operates fairly smoothly in spite of the short term of office. The term of naval duty is usually 18 months. The majority of the people of the West who elect governments to make new laws think quite often with commercial motives, but there is no indication that American Samoa contains any economic potentialities. In other words, it's one-way road where money is concerned. It is a one-way road where money is concerned. Cumulative difficulties, however, are becoming more and more troublesome to the government. For example, members of the Native Guard, the FITA, FITA, who have served full Navy terms, retire with pensions through which they are able to exert more influence in their families than the family chiefs. Wow. They refuse to take their place of subjection to the family head, the Matai, and there is increasing trouble between retired guards and chiefs of the old Samoan organization. Also, the last World War left many marks on the island when there are more Marines here than Samoans, all with money to spend and nowhere to go. Many of the younger generation have their own ideas now, and some are breaking away from the Matai system. The leaving of the Navy and then the entering of the Department of Interior has also split them into large factions. More than 300 veterans going to school under the GI Bill with stateside sustenance checks, which is far out of the line to the island economy, is another problem. There are also others. The Public Works Department, which makes new roads, reservoirs, and other improvements for the benefit of the natives, is supported in large part by the Navy. In similar administrations, the problem of the revenue is of great importance. But the government of American Samoa subsidizes the natives in that salaries of the local guards help to support large families. Nearly 1% of the population draws a salary in this group, and that 1% helps to support about 20%. Kind of like what's going on now. The same goes for the ex-Marines, veterans. Some families, headed by incompetent chiefs on Tutila, scarcely plant enough tar and bananas. Part of the time they live off of friends who habitually have enough. It isn't any wonder that they have very little interest in expanding their plantations or care about the agricultural department to provide for the growing population. More coconuts would be planted by the people if they saw any need for them. They have taken the same attitude as many have back home. If the government is so anxious to improve the present methods of land utilization and wants to introduce new crops, it will benefit, and therefore it should do the work. They, on their part, have lived for hundreds of years under their present system of doing things and see no necessity for change. My father told me that was one of the biggest contentions and biggest problems he had working with these people, is finding motivation to let them see that they really need to grow more food. The climate of Samoa is one of high temperature and heavy rainfall. The daily range of temperature is small, and there is little variation from day to day. For a 37-year average, the temperature was between 81 and 82. I can get used to that. It is higher from December to May than from June to November. February is the hottest month usually. So that's what happens when we have the international date line. Things kind of flip-flop, kind of like the underside, the underneath. The upside down is what I meant to say. February is the hottest month usually. Records frequently show midday temperatures of 90 to 95. The average rainfall for the same number of years was 196 inches. That'd be over 1,000 inches of snow. The year may be divided into a wet season, November to March, and a little less wet season, April to October. There can be variations in that, however. For instance, last year the island had close to 300 inches of rain. This year we've had enough, thank you. Even with all that rain, you may find it hard to believe, but we do have water rationing at times. We've just come out of a period of very little rain. Our reservoirs are fairly small, and the volcanic formation underneath lets the water go through very rapidly. Hence, we have rationing. But like Morton salt, when it rains, it's ours. The heaviest fall during 24 hours in the mountain was 15 inches. On the coast, it was 10 inches, with 2.5 inches of maximum for 1 hour. The relative humidity ranges from 70 to 90% during the wet season and from 40 to 60% during the drier season. The absolute humidity is always high. Articles stored away from the wind, sun, and hot lockers are covered with mold in a few days. The high humidity, we find, is one of the worst factors in our stay. It hits Phil a little bit more than me. I must get that from my mom because I can't stand being hot. The natives, you can envy them at times, and in the same breath despise them, are perhaps the purest surviving type of Polynesians. Many have regular, almost European feature, rather tall, averaging 5 foot 10 inches, and have light brown complexions. In character, they are mild, friendly, and hospitable, and easily led by those who earn their respect. At the same time, they have faults natural to imperfect development. Breaking it down, they are but a child, well-mannered and attractive when pleased, but at times, usually after a little white man's beer or other reasons, can change suddenly with primitive passions, which are both easily aroused and easily subsided. And they also have a good physique to back it up. In the Samoan social system, the unit is the family, or rather a group of families forming a clan whose head is called the Matai, owns all the islands and parcels it out to the members as the need arises. All the produce of the soil and the wages of those who actually work are theoretically turned over to the Matai. This is changing somewhat in modern times. The social customs are interesting and vary greatly. Scarcely a situation in the ordinary life of an individual or family is without its prescribed rule of manners and conduct. Practically a small item is cause for a feast or celebration. I like that way of thinking. We have to celebrate everything, everything. The pastimes of the Samoans, however, are usually very simple. The chief of all, which is a cross between a mixture of cricket and baseball. What hold the future? The present background is one to which the natives have gradually adjusted themselves, and one in which they derive the greatest happiness. Changes have occurred, however, and they will continue to come. But any attempt to change their ways, no matter in what field, must take into consideration the communal organization of the family. Which organization by far believe is the best for them? For under the present system, one which could be changed only gradually over a long period of years, the native is fed, housed, clothed, allowed to live his happy life according to the custom of his people. In time of trouble, or when his chief and his family will stand by him. As for dangers, one is population. One of my students, 38 years old, has 11 children, and that is very common. There is still Western Samoa with its greater land area, which could ease that situation for a while, though. Another is the possibility of the influx of Asiatics who would work many times as the Samoans and soon control them. Immigration laws now prevent this, but how long will that last? Still, another blow is rapidly coming to a head with the Navy leaving. The Department of Interior could not hope to give away as much goods or monies as the Navy has. The disbanding of the Fida Guard will soon become an actuality, and the Veterans School will only last another year or so, a tremendous hole in their economy. Still, they don't seem to worry, and until they begin to see there's no value in trying to force them to. Kind of sounds like young kids down in Florida right now. That, my friends, pretty much covers Samoa and the Watsons. We could add much more about the island and its people, for nary a day goes by that we don't learn something new, but time and space will not permit it. In fact, it's nearly time for Christmas. We wanted so much to get this to you by then, but this still has to be printed. so it looks like we won't be able to. Please then include our belated wishes amongst those you know already have for a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We do, however, leave one more major item of importance to announce. Besides looking for a place to live and a job when we return this coming July, one of the first items we must find is a baby crib. Yes, sometime in May, this branch of the Watson family will be increased by one. So, as the world situation grows worse instead of better, it could so easily grow better. Our thoughts and our hearts are of you at home and also full of a certain emptiness. Our fears for our own immediate concern are negligible, ever being so far from home. Therefore, we shall bring this to a close. Tufa Sophia ma ipui mapula out da uma. Ali Ali al Jalili. Goodbye, good luck, and may the good Lord watch over you. That is but the first letter that was written that I have in this book. That was my parents. And I just heard that spoken by my daddy in my head. So I have a little bit of a tear. But I'm also verklempt today because when I went to the store, hi everybody that's watching. Yes, I did buy that hat on our trip. It's one of my favorites, Derek. Yes, he did. He certainly inherited that. And I have all of his letters and all of his cards. Anyway, I had a wonderful thing happen to me. I have a dear friend, someone that I met in my karaoke season, and he and his fiance have become very close to me. And I had a very generous pay it forward moment with him at the store, and it left me, I'm beside myself today. I'm overwhelmed. This whole thing, I want you guys to try and stay strong. You all have each other. If you have families around, please cherish them. Being here alone can be somewhat difficult, but the beauty of this format here, it gets me up, it gets me out of bed, it gets me dressed, and I can put a little face on for you today. So I still have several pages to read from the next letter, and I'm sure I can find other interesting things that he's written if you guys are interested. If not, hey, I got a whole book of fairy tales we could read. Anything to get me up and out and motivated for the day. Oh, thank you, Susan. I love you, honey. Love you too, Amanda. Derek, love you too, honey. So with that said, I'm going to go finish putting away my groceries that were so kindly purchased for me by my groovy best lover. He's the best. He's the best friend. Anyway, so you guys have a fabulous day. Hopefully we don't get locked down to where we can't go anywhere. I'm looking forward to the sunshine coming pretty soon. This weather, I need the sunshine. I need to take a vitamin D then instead. So, oh, I love that movie, Derek. October Sky is amazing. Is it the same one with the rocket? So anyway, guys, I don't know how many times I can tell you I love you, but I do. And I'm going to be here. I'm going to be holding down my fort. And when we all get over with this, whatever it is we're doing. Oh my God, did you guys see Willie's concert last night? Was that amazing? From 6 to 11 o'clock, they had all these random artists from Nashville just coming on and singing 2 or 3 songs. It was amazing. I loved it. It was great. And that's why they sing. And I just read. All right, guys. See you tomorrow.